The rain had been falling since morning. Heavy droplets slid down the floor-to-ceiling windows of the hospital room, turning the city skyline into a blurry painting of gray and silver. Sophia Bennett sat quietly by the window. The room was silent except for the steady beep of a heart monitor. 3 months ago, she had been one of the most admired businesswomen in the country. Today, she was a patient no doctor could explain. 29 years old, confined to a hospital bed, slowly dying. Sophia lowered her gaze to her trembling hands. The skin looked pale, weak, nothing like the confident hands that had built Bennett. Beauty from the ground up. There was a time when she barely slept, a time when she worked 16-hour days, a time when every beauty product she designed carried a piece of her dream. She remembered renting a tiny office with peeling paint and broken air conditioning. She remembered packing orders herself. She remembered celebrating her first 100 sales by eating instant noodles with her employees because that was all they could afford. Back then she was happy. Back then she was surrounded by people who believed in her, or at least she thought she was. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. The hospital room door opened. Sophia immediately sat up. Hope flickered inside her chest. Ethan? The smile on her face disappeared instantly. It wasn't Ethan. It was a nurse carrying medication. Oh. The disappointment escaped before she could stop it. The nurse offered a sympathetic smile. Still waiting for your husband? Sophia forced a laugh. He must be busy. The nurse hesitated. Then she quietly placed the medicine on the table. Everyone in the hospital knew the truth. Her husband almost never visited. The nurses talked, doctors noticed. Even patients in nearby rooms had begun whispering. The successful CEO, abandoned by her own husband, but Sophia defended him every time. He works hard. He has important meetings. He's worried about me. Those excuses had become a habit, a painful habit. After the nurse left, Sophia picked up her phone. No messages. No missed calls. Nothing. The lock screen showed a photo taken 2 years earlier. Sophia stood beside Ethan on a beach vacation. His arm rested around her shoulders, both of them smiling. Looking at the photo now felt strange, almost painful, because she could no longer remember the last time he looked at her that way. A sudden vibration made her jump. Her heart raced. A message. Finally, she opened it instantly. The sender wasn't Ethan. It was Olivia, her younger sister. Olivia, how are you feeling today? Sophia smiled despite herself. At least Olivia cared. Unlike Ethan, her sister visited often. Olivia brought flowers, food, gifts, books. She sat beside Sophia for hours and listened whenever she wanted to talk. Sometimes Sophia wondered how she would survive without her. Sophia replied, I'm okay. Just miss everyone. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then another message arrived. Don't worry. We'll always be here for you. Sophia felt tears gather in her eyes. Family. And no matter what happened, family stayed, or so she believed. That evening, Sophia received unexpected news. Her doctor entered carrying several test results. His expression seemed unusually serious. Sophia, I'd like to discuss something. She frowned. What's wrong? The doctor sat down. We've repeated every test multiple times, and we still can't identify what's causing your condition. Fear tightened her chest. What does that mean? The doctor chose his words carefully. It means whatever is happening to your body isn't behaving like any illness we've seen before. Sophia stared at him. For the first time since becoming sick, genuine fear settled inside her. Not knowing was worse than hearing bad news. At least bad news had a name. This had none. How much time do I have? The doctor looked away. That was answer enough. Later that night, Ethan finally arrived. Sophia nearly cried from relief. He looked handsome as always, perfectly tailored suit, expensive watch, confident smile, the same man she had fallen in love with 6 years ago. Ethan. She reached for his hand. He allowed her to hold it, but something felt different, cold, distant, like he was performing an obligation, rather than visiting someone he loved. "I'm sorry I'm late," he said. "Work has been crazy." Sophia nodded immediately. "It's okay." He smiled, the exact smile she had spent years trusting, yet for some reason, a strange feeling settled in her stomach. An uneasiness she couldn't explain. The conversation felt forced. Mechanical. As though they were strangers pretending to be married. When Ethan left 30 minutes later, Sophia noticed something unusual. His phone buzzed. A message appeared briefly on the screen, just long enough for her to see the sender's name, Olivia. Her sister. Sophia blinked, then laughed softly. Of course, Olivia was helping him organize things while Sophia was sick. Nothing unusual about that. Nothing at all. Yet later that night, as rain continued tapping against the windows, Sophia found herself unable to sleep. For the first time, a tiny seed of doubt had been planted in her heart, and she had no idea that the truth waiting for her was far worse than death itself. That night, Sophia barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ethan's face, not the face she had fallen in love with. The face she had seen earlier, cold, detached, almost annoyed to be there. The thought made her chest ache. She told herself she was overthinking. Illness could do that to a person. It made them sensitive, emotional, afraid. She had spent months lying in a hospital bed. Of course her mind would wander. Still something felt wrong. The next morning, Sophia woke up before sunrise. The city outside was still dark. Her hospital room felt unusually empty. She reached for her phone. No messages, no missed calls, no good morning text from Ethan. A small disappointment settled in her heart. Before getting sick, Ethan used to text her constantly. Now entire days passed without hearing from him. Again, she tried to excuse it. He was helping run the company. He was busy. He was stressed. That explanation had become her shield against painful questions. A shield that was beginning to crack. Around noon, Olivia arrived carrying a bouquet of pink roses. Her younger sister looked beautiful as always. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect smile. The kind of woman who could light up any room simply by entering it. The moment she stepped inside, Sophia's mood improved. "Liv." Olivia rushed forward and hugged her carefully. "Oh my goodness, you're looking better already," Sophia laughed. "You say that every time." "Because it's true." Olivia placed the flowers in a vase and began unpacking homemade food from a basket. Sophia smiled. Her sister always brought her favorite meals. It was one of the reasons she felt so grateful to have her. Their parents had died years ago in a car accident. Since then, the sisters had only had each other. Sophia had practically raised Olivia, paid her school fees, supported her dreams, protected her whenever life became difficult. She never regretted it. Not once. Watching Olivia move around the room, Sophia felt a surge of affection. Family was everything. "Thank you for always being here." Olivia paused. For just a second, something flashed across her face. Guilt, or perhaps discomfort. Then it vanished. "What are sisters for?" Sophia smiled. She never noticed Olivia avoiding her eyes. Later that afternoon, Olivia stepped outside to answer a phone call. Sophia wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but the hospital room door hadn't fully closed. Voices drifted through the small opening. At first, Sophia paid no attention. Then she heard a familiar name. Ethan. Her attention sharpened instantly. Olivia's voice was low, frustrated. "No, she doesn't suspect anything." Sophia frowned. "Suspect what?" There was a brief silence. Then Olivia spoke again. "We just need a little more time." Sophia's stomach tightened. A strange feeling washed over her. An uncomfortable sensation she couldn't explain. The conversation ended quickly when Olivia returned. She was smiling normally again, but Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed that evening. A visitor arrived unexpectedly. It was Michael Hayes, Sophia's longtime business partner. Unlike Ethan, Michael had helped build Bennett Beauty from the beginning. He had been there when the company consisted of 2 employees and a folding table. Seeing him brought genuine happiness. "Michael?" He smiled warmly. "Look at you." "I know," Sophia joked weakly. "I've seen better days." His smile faded. For a moment he seemed unusually serious, concerned, almost troubled. "How are you really feeling?" Sophia hesitated. "Tired." Michael nodded slowly. Then he glanced toward the door, making sure nobody else was listening. "Sophia, I need to ask you something." Her heartbeat quickened. "What is it?" His expression darkened. "Have you reviewed the company's financial reports recently?" Sophia blinked. No, she hadn't, since becoming sick. Ethan had taken over most operations. That IT seemed practical at the time. After all, they were married. She trusted him completely. Michael looked uncomfortable. "As soon as you're able, you should review them." A chill traveled through her body. "Why?" Michael hesitated, then sighed. "There are transactions I don't understand." Sophia stared at him. "What kind of transactions?" "I don't know yet." His jaw tightened. "But something feels off." The room suddenly felt colder. Sophia forced herself to stay calm. There had to be a reasonable explanation. There always was. Right? After Michael left, Sophia found herself staring at the ceiling for hours. The strange phone call, the financial concerns, Ethan's growing distance. Individually, none of those things seemed alarming. Together, they formed a picture she didn't want to see. Around midnight, another message arrived from Ethan. "Sorry I couldn't visit today. Busy with meetings." Sophia stared at the text. A few seconds later, she replied, "That's okay. I miss you." The message showed as read. Then nothing. And no response. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes. 30. Eventually, Sophia placed the phone down. For the first time in 6 years, she felt lonely in her marriage. 2 days later, Sophia received devastating news. The doctor entered her room carrying fresh test results. His face told her everything before he spoke. The illness was getting worse. Much worse. Her organs were beginning to fail. Sophia listened. Quietly, almost numbly. She should have been terrified. Instead, her thoughts drifted elsewhere. Ethan. Olivia. Bennett Beauty. The life she was slowly losing. The doctor eventually left. Sophia remained motionless, staring out the window, watching people move through the city below. Everyone living there lives, everyone moving forward, while hers was coming to an end. A tear rolled down her cheek, then another, and another. For the first time since becoming sick, Sophia cried, not because she was dying, but because she suddenly realized she didn't know who she could trust anymore. And somewhere beyond the walls of that hospital room, 2 people she loved most were hiding secrets that would soon destroy her world forever. The rain returned the next morning, soft at first, then heavier. Like the sky itself couldn't hold its weight anymore. Sophia sat by the hospital window, staring at nothing. Sleep hadn't come again. It hadn't been coming much lately. Every time she closed her eyes, her mind replayed fragments of conversations she didn't fully understand yet. Olivia's voice on the phone, Michael's warning, Ethan's distance, separate moments. But together they were starting to form something uncomfortable, something she didn't want to name. Her phone buzzed. She flinched slightly, as if she wasn't expecting it anymore. "Ethan." For a moment, her heart lifted, then she opened the message. "I might not come today. Something came up at the office." That was it. And "I miss you." No, how are you feeling?" Just absence wrapped in a sentence. Sophia stared at it for a long time, then slowly typed, "Okay, be safe." She hesitated before sending it. Her thumb hovered over the screen. A part of her wanted to ask questions. A part of her wanted to say, "Why don't you come anymore?" But she didn't. She never did. Instead, she sent it and waited. The message was read instantly. And no reply followed. Again, Sophia lowered her phone. A small ache settled in her chest. Quiet but persistent. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just there. Like something slowly breaking inside her without making a sound. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Olivia entered, as bright as always. "Good morning, Sleeping Beauty." She walked in carrying a small paper bag and smiled like nothing in the world was wrong. Sophia forced a smile back. "Good morning." Olivia placed the bag on the table. "I brought you warm soup today. You need to eat properly." Sophia watched her. Every movement was familiar, every smile comforting, yet something about it now felt slightly distant. Not obvious, just enough to make her notice it. "Thank you," Sophia said softly. Olivia sat beside her bed and began unpacking the food. For a while, they talked about simple things: the weather, the hospital staff, a new fashion trend Olivia claimed she hated but secretly followed. It felt normal. Again. Almost enough to erase the doubts. Almost. Then Olivia's phone buzzed. She glanced at it quickly. Too quickly. Her expression changed for half a second. Then she stood up. "I'll just take this outside." Sophia nodded, but her eyes followed her sister as she left. The door didn't fully close. Again, this time, Sophia didn't try to ignore it. She didn't mean to listen, but silence has a way of making even distant voices feel close. Olivia's voice came through the crack in the door, low, controlled, careful. "Yes, she's still in the hospital." Pause. Sophia's fingers slowly tightened around her blanket. Another pause. Then Olivia continued, "No, she hasn't seen anything yet." A chill crawled up Sophia's spine. Seen what? Her heartbeat slowed slightly. She told herself not to jump to conclusions. Maybe it was about business. Maybe it was about her health records. Maybe Olivia's voice sharpened. "We just need the final signature from Ethan. Then it's done." Silence followed. Then a soft laugh. Not happy. Not kind. Something sharper. Relieved. Sophia felt her throat tighten. Final signature. Done? Done what? Her chest rose and fell faster now. She tried to steady her breathing. Maybe she misunderstood. Maybe then Olivia said something that stopped her cold. "If she dies before that, it'll make everything easier." The words didn't fully register at first. Her brain refused them, like it rejected the meaning before it could land. If she dies, easier. The room felt suddenly smaller, hotter. Wrong. Sophia's hand slipped from the bed. Her heart pounded painfully in her chest. No. That couldn't be footsteps. Olivia was coming back. Sophia quickly closed her eyes and turned her face slightly. She forced her breathing to slow, pretended to be asleep. The door opened. Soft footsteps entered. Olivia paused near the bed. Sophia felt her sister's gaze on her, watching. Checking. Olivia exhaled gently. "Good," she whispered, and left again. This time, she closed the door fully. Sophia didn't move for a long time. Her eyes remained closed, but her mind was wide awake. Too awake. If she dies. The sentence replayed again. And again. And again. It didn't feel like a misunderstanding anymore. It felt intentional. Deliberate. Planned. Slowly, she opened her eyes. The room looked the same. White walls. Soft light. Quiet. Machines. But everything inside her felt different now. Like something had shifted permanently. Like she had crossed into a version of reality she was never meant to see. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for her phone. Again, she opened her messages. Ethan's chat was still there, still unreadable emotionally, still empty. Her thumb hovered for the first time. She didn't feel like texting him. Instead, she felt something colder, something unfamiliar. Doubt, and, behind it, fear. Not fear of dying, but fear of something far worse, that she might already be surrounded by the people responsible for it. Her phone lit up again. A new message from Michael. Sophia, we need to talk urgently. Don't let Ethan handle anything else in the company. Her breath caught. This time, she didn't hesitate. She replied instantly. What do you know? The three dots appeared immediately, then stopped, started again, and finally a reply came in. More than you're ready to hear. Sophia stared at the screen. Her hands were shaking now, but not from weakness, from realization. Something was very wrong, and for the first time since waking up in that hospital bed, she stopped trusting the people she once loved. Sophia stared at Michael's message long after the screen went dark. More than you're ready to hear. The words settled heavily in her chest. A week ago, she would have dismissed them. A month ago, she would have defended Ethan without hesitation. But now, doubt had begun to grow roots, and doubt, once planted, was difficult to remove, especially when it was watered by secrets. The following afternoon, Michael arrived at the hospital. Unlike his usual confident self, he seemed tense, as though he had spent days wrestling with a difficult decision. The moment he entered the room, Sophia noticed he looked exhausted. Dark circles sat beneath his eyes. His normally neat suit appeared rushed, and for the first time in years, he looked worried. Not about business, about her. He pulled a chair beside her bed. Neither spoke immediately. Finally, Sophia broke the silence. You know something. Michael nodded. Yes. Her stomach tightened. Tell me. He hesitated, then reached into his briefcase and removed a thick folder. The sight alone made Sophia uneasy. Before I show you this, he said carefully, I need you to promise me something. Sophia frowned. What? No matter what you see, stay calm. A chill ran down her spine. Slowly, she nodded. Michael opened the folder. Inside were dozens of documents, bank statements, transfer records, contracts, corporate filings. Sophia's pulse quickened. What am I looking at? Michael slid several pages toward her. Money. She looked down at it first. Nothing seemed unusual. Then she noticed the account names. Her eyes widened. These aren't company accounts. No, then whose are they? Michael's jaw tightened. Ethan's. The room fell silent. Sophia stared at the pages. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, transferred repeatedly over the last year. Hidden accounts, unknown recipients, transactions she had never authorized. Her mouth went dry. There has to be an explanation. Michael didn't answer. Instead, he handed her another document. Sophia scanned it, then froze. Her heart nearly stopped. The signature at the bottom belonged to her, or at least it looked like it did, but she had never signed it. Never even seen it before. The document granted Ethan expanded authority over portions of Bennett Beauty's assets. Sophia's breathing became shallow. This is fake. Michael nodded. I know. This signature is forged. I know. Her hands began shaking. For several seconds she simply stared, unable to process what she was seeing. Because if Ethan forged company documents, then he wasn't just making bad decisions. He was stealing from her. Sophia looked up. What else? Michael seemed reluctant. That frightened her more than anything. Michael. He sighed heavily. There are also transfers linked to Olivia. The words hit harder than she expected. Not Ethan. Olivia. Her sister. The person who visited every week. The person who held her hand during treatments. The person she trusted most. Sophia stared at him. No, I wish I was wrong. No, Michael lowered his gaze. I checked the records 3 times. Sophia felt tears sting her eyes, not because she believed him, because she was terrified he might be telling the truth. After Michael left, Sophia sat alone for hours. The folder rested on her lap. Every page felt heavier than the last. Her mind kept returning to childhood memories, Olivia following her everywhere, Olivia crying after nightmares, Olivia celebrating birthdays, graduations, family holidays. For years Sophia had protected her little sister. When their parents died, Sophia had stepped into both roles: sister, guardian, provider, everything. She had sacrificed opportunities for Olivia, worked harder for Olivia, dreamed bigger for Olivia. And now someone was telling her that same sister might be helping destroy her. It didn't feel possible. It felt cruel. That evening, Ethan arrived unexpectedly. The moment he entered, Sophia quickly closed the folder and slipped it beneath a blanket. Ethan smiled. The same familiar smile. The smile she once loved. Now she found herself studying it. Looking for cracks. Looking for lies. How are you feeling? He asked. Sophia forced herself to smile. A little better. That's good. He kissed her forehead. A simple gesture. One that used to make her feel safe. Now it made her stomach turn, because she couldn't stop wondering. How many times had he kissed her after betraying her? The thought nearly broke her heart. Still, she remained calm. She needed answers. Not emotions. Answers. So she decided to do something she hadn't done in months. She asked questions. What happened at the office today? Ethan froze, only for a second. But Sophia noticed. Then he smiled again. Nothing unusual. A lie. She knew it instantly. Not because she had proof, because the answer came too quickly. Too perfectly. As if he had rehearsed it. Sophia nodded casually. And Olivia? Ethan looked surprised. What about her? Have you seen her recently? Another pause. Tiny, almost invisible. But there. A few times. His eyes drifted away briefly. Then returned. The movement lasted less than a second. Yet it told Sophia everything. He was hiding something. That night, after Ethan left, Sophia made a decision. For months she had been waiting to die. Now she would fight. Not because she believed she could save herself, because she needed the truth. And no matter how painful it was. The next morning she called Michael. I need your help. I'm listening. I want copies of everything. Done. I want access to all company records. Done. And I want someone discreet. What for? Sophia stared out the window. Her reflection looked fragile. Weak. But her eyes had changed. There was steel in them now. A determination that hadn't existed days earlier. I want someone to investigate Ethan and Olivia. Silence. Then Michael answered quietly. Are you sure? Sophia closed her eyes. The answer hurt. Because once she crossed this line, there would be no going back. No. She whispered. Then she opened her eyes again. But I need to know the truth. 3 days later, the investigator delivered the first report. Michael brought it personally. The envelope felt impossibly heavy. Sophia's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside were photographs. The first image made her heart stop. A restaurant. A private table. Ethan. And Olivia. Holding hands. Not as siblings. Not as family. Not as friends. As lovers. Sophia couldn't breathe. The world blurred instantly. Her vision filled with tears. No, the photograph slipped from her fingers and crashed onto the hospital floor. Everything inside her shattered. Every excuse. Every defense. Every ounce of trust. Gone. Because for the first time, she was looking directly at the truth. And the truth was far uglier than she had imagined. For a long time, Sophia couldn't move. The photograph lay on the hospital floor, face up, merciless, permanent. A single image had destroyed 6 years of marriage. A single image had shattered a lifetime of trust. Ethan and Olivia, holding hands, smiling, looking at each other the way people looked at someone they loved, not secretly, not reluctantly, comfortably, naturally. As if they had done it 100 times before, maybe they had. Sophia lowered her head. Tears slipped silently down her cheeks. She didn't sob. She didn't scream. The pain was too deep for that. Instead, it settled inside her like a stone. Heavy, cold, unmoving. Michael remained beside her, saying nothing. There were moments when words only made things worse. This was one of them. Eventually, Sophia spoke. Her voice was barely a whisper. "How long?" Michael hesitated, then answered honestly. "The investigator believes at least 2 years." 2 years. The number hit her harder than the photograph itself. 2 years. 2 years of lies. 2 years of pretending. 2 years of sitting at family dinners, celebrating birthdays, taking vacations, listening to Ethan tell her he loved her, listening to Olivia call her the best sister in the world, all while betraying her. Sophia laughed softly. The sound frightened even her. There was no happiness in it, only heartbreak. "I was such a fool." Michael immediately shook his head. "No," she looked at him. "Michael, I paid for Olivia's education." Her voice trembled. "When she wanted to start a business, I funded it." Tears blurred her vision. "When Ethan wanted to expand his consulting firm, I introduced him to my investors." Another tear rolled down her cheek. "I gave them everything." Michael's expression softened. "And that's exactly why this isn't your fault." Sophia looked away, because right now, it felt like it was. The next few days passed in a haze. The investigator continued gathering evidence. Each report revealed something worse than the last. Secret hotel bookings, hidden bank accounts, private vacations, messages, thousands of messages. Sophia didn't read most of them. She couldn't. The few she did read were enough. One message from Olivia nearly broke her completely. "Once she's gone, we won't have to hide anymore." Gone. Not divorced. Not separated. Gone. The word haunted her. Why would Olivia phrase it that way? Why not simply leave? Why not take the company and disappear? Why did every message seem to assume Sophia wouldn't be alive? The question refused to leave her mind. As she contemplated it more, the more terrified she became. 3 days later, another report arrived. This one was different. Michael entered the room looking pale. The moment Sophia saw his face, she knew something was wrong. Very wrong. He closed the door behind him, locked it, then sat beside her bed. "Michael." He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he handed her a sealed envelope. Sophia frowned. "What is this?" "Open it." Her stomach tightened. Slowly, she slid the documents out. The first page was a laboratory report. She didn't recognize it. The second page was another report. Then another. Then another. Medical records, chemical analyses, specialist reviews. Sophia looked up, confused. "What am I reading?" Michael swallowed hard, then said the words that changed everything. "Sophia." His voice cracked. "We don't think you're sick." The room became completely silent. Sophia stared at him, unable to process what she'd heard. "What?" Michael leaned forward. The investigator found something unusual. Her pulse quickened. "What?" "Ethan requested access to your medical records months ago." Sophia frowned. "So, then he contacted a pharmaceutical supplier." A cold chill spread through her body. Michael continued. "We had the investigator speak with an independent toxicologist." Sophia's breathing slowed. Her body suddenly felt numb. No, Michael looked devastated. The symptoms match chronic poisoning. The words landed like a hammer for several seconds. Sophia couldn't hear anything, couldn't think, couldn't breathe. Poisoning, not illness. Poisoning. Her mind instantly replayed the past year, the fatigue, the dizziness, the organ damage, the mysterious test results, the confusion from doctors. None of it made sense before. Now it did. Too much sense. No, her voice shook. No, Michael's eyes filled with sorrow. I'm sorry. No, Sophia's entire body trembled because if she wasn't dying, naturally, then someone was killing her. Slowly, patiently, deliberately. And there were only two people with constant access to her life, Ethan and Olivia, that night. Sophia couldn't sleep. The hospital room felt suffocating. Every memory suddenly looked different. Every interaction carried new meaning. She remembered Olivia bringing homemade food, homemade tea, homemade soup, homemade desserts. She remembered Ethan insisting she take supplements he purchased, vitamins, health, drinks, medication, things he claimed would help her recover. Sophia sat upright in bed, her heart racing. What if? What if it had been happening for months? What if every act of kindness had actually been an attack? The thought made her physically ill. The next morning, Olivia arrived carrying a thermos. The familiar smile was still there, bright, sweet, perfect. The same smile Sophia had trusted her entire life. Good morning, Sophia forced herself to smile back. Morning. Olivia lifted the thermos. I brought your favorite tea. Sophia stared at it. The room suddenly felt colder. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. Tea, always tea. Olivia brought tea almost every visit. Sophia's fingers tightened around the blanket. For years, she had never questioned it. Now she couldn't stop questioning it. Olivia poured a cup. The fragrant steam rose gently into the air. Normally, Sophia would have taken it immediately. Today, she hesitated. What's wrong? Olivia asked. Sophia forced a laugh. Nothing. Then she reached for the cup. But instead of drinking it, she deliberately knocked it over. The tea spilled across the bed sheets. Oh no, Sophia exclaimed. Olivia jumped up instantly. I'll get some towels. The moment Olivia rushed out of the room, Sophia moved. Quickly, quietly, she grabbed a sterile specimen container from a nearby medical tray. The hospital staff often used them for testing. With trembling hands, she soaked up a small amount of the spilled tea, then sealed the container. Seconds later, Olivia returned. Sophia slipped the sample beneath her pillow. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought her sister might hear it, but Olivia smiled, completely unaware. And for the first time in her life, Sophia looked at her sister not with love, but with suspicion. That evening, Michael arrived. Sophia handed him the sample. What is this? My tea. He frowned. The tea Olivia brought. Michael immediately understood. His expression darkened. Without another word, he took the container. I'll have it tested tonight. Sophia nodded. Neither said what they were both thinking, because neither was ready for the answer. 2 days later, Michael returned. The moment Sophia saw his face, she knew. The answer had arrived, and it was worse than either of them had feared. Michael closed the door, then slowly placed a laboratory report onto her bed. Sophia's hands trembled as she picked it up. Her eyes scanned the page, then froze. A toxic substance had been detected. Small doses, difficult to trace, capable of causing long-term organ failure. Exactly the symptoms she had been experiencing. The cup slipped from her hands and shattered against the floor. Sophia stared at the report, unable to blink, unable to breathe, unable to deny the truth any longer. Someone had been poisoning her. And the poison had come from Olivia's tea. The laboratory report remained on Sophia's lap long after Michael left. She read it once, then twice, then a third time. Each reading made the words feel more real, more permanent, more horrifying. The toxic substance had been found. Not in her blood. Not in her medication. In the tea Olivia brought. The tea she drank almost every day. The tea her sister prepared with her own hands. For years, Sophia had believed betrayal was something dramatic, a screaming argument, a public humiliation, a shocking revelation. But real betrayal was quieter. It sat beside you, smiled at you, held your hand while slowly destroying your life. And that realization hurt more than anything else. That night, Sophia cried harder than she ever had before. Not because she was afraid of dying, not because she had lost her company, not even because Ethan had cheated on her. She cried because she genuinely loved Olivia, the little girl she used to braid hair with, the little sister she protected from bullies, the teenager she comforted after heartbreak, the young woman whose dreams she helped finance. How could that person become this? How could someone look their sister in the eye every day and secretly poison her? Sophia couldn't understand it, and perhaps that was the most painful part. There was no explanation that could make it hurt less. The next morning, she made a decision. She would tell no one except Michael. Not yet. If Ethan and Olivia discovered she knew the truth, they would become more careful, more dangerous. No. Let them believe she remained helpless. Let them think she was still dying. Let them become comfortable. People made mistakes when they were comfortable, and Sophia needed them to make mistakes. 3 days later, Olivia arrived with flowers, just like always, a bright smile on her face, a warm hug waiting, a concerned expression prepared. The performance was flawless. If Sophia didn't know the truth, she would have believed every second of it. "How are you feeling today?" Olivia asked. Sophia smiled weakly. "Still tired." Something flickered across Olivia's eyes. Relief. Tiny. Barely visible. But there, Sophia noticed, and it made her stomach twist. Because now she understood. Olivia wasn't worried about her recovery. She was worried about whether the poison was working. For the next hour, Olivia sat beside her bed discussing ordinary things. Fashion. Celebrities. Travel plans. Random stories from social media. The conversation felt surreal. Sophia found herself staring at her sister's face, trying to find traces of the girl she once knew, trying to understand where everything had gone wrong. But all she saw was a stranger wearing Olivia's face. When Olivia finally left, Sophia felt exhausted. Pretending was difficult, far more difficult than she expected, because every smile felt like a lie, every conversation felt like poison, and yet she had no choice. Not yet. The following week brought another breakthrough. The investigator uncovered additional financial records. This time the information was devastating. Michael arrived carrying a thick stack of documents. His expression was grim. "What is it now?" Sophia asked. Michael sat down. "Remember when Ethan proposed?" Sophia blinked. The question caught her off guard. Of all the things she expected to discuss, that wasn't one of them. Of course. It had been one of the happiest days of her life. A private dinner, candles, music, a beautiful diamond ring, a promise of forever. At least that's what she thought at the time. Michael slid a document across the bed. Sophia picked it up, then frowned. The document contained transaction records. One date immediately stood out. The date of her engagement. Her heart skipped a beat. "What am I looking at?" Michael pointed to a payment. A large one. Made from one of Sophia's personal accounts, not Ethan's, not theirs. Hers. Sophia stared, confused. Then realization slowly dawned. "No." Michael nodded. "The ring." Sophia's blood ran cold. "The engagement ring." Michael looked away. "You paid for it." The room went silent. Sophia felt something inside her break. Again. She remembered that night vividly. Ethan kneeling beneath strings of lights, holding the ring, telling her she was the love of his life. She remembered crying, remembered saying yes, remembered believing every word. And now she was discovering that she had unknowingly paid for her own engagement ring, the symbol of his love, purchased with her money. Not his. Her hands trembled. How? Michael sighed. He moved funds through multiple accounts. Sophia lowered her head. The betrayal felt endless. Every beautiful memory seemed rotten now. Every treasured moment carried hidden lies. She wondered if any part of their relationship had been real, or if she had simply been a target from the beginning. That question haunted her for days. Then the investigator found something worse. Much worse. A hidden email account. One shared between Ethan and Olivia. Inside were hundreds of messages. Most discussed money, company assets, legal documents, property transfers. But one email stood out. One email changed everything. Michael refused to send it electronically. Instead, he brought a printed copy himself. Sophia immediately knew it was serious. "Read this carefully," he said. Her hands shook as she unfolded the paper. The message was dated 4 years earlier. Nearly 2 years before Ethan proposed. 2 years. Before, Sophia's eyes moved across the page, then stopped, and her entire world tilted. "She trusts me completely now. Give it another year. Once we marry, everything becomes much easier." The sender was Ethan. The recipient was Olivia. Sophia stared at the words, unable to breathe, unable to blink, unable to think. Another line caught her attention, one she wished she had never seen. "She's not the woman I love, but she's the woman who owns what we need." The paper slipped from her hands and landed on the bed. For several seconds, the room remained silent. Then tears began rolling down Sophia's face. Not loud tears, not dramatic tears, just quiet heartbreak, because she finally had her answer. The question she'd been asking herself for days: was any of it real? The answer was no. The first date, the proposal, the wedding, the promises, the future they planned together. It had all been part of a scheme, a long con, a carefully planned operation, and she had been the victim from the very beginning. That night, Sophia sat alone beside the hospital window, watching city lights flicker in the darkness. Something had changed inside her. The grief was still there. The pain was still there. But now something else existed alongside it. Something stronger. Anger. Cold. Focused. Patient. For the first time, she stopped thinking about survival. She stopped thinking about forgiveness. She stopped thinking about why they did it. Instead, she began thinking about what came next, and far below, beyond the hospital walls, Ethan and Olivia were still celebrating, still spending stolen money, still planning a future together, completely unaware that their victim had finally stopped being helpless and had started becoming dangerous. For the first time since learning the truth, Sophia stopped crying, not because the pain had disappeared. It hadn't. If anything, it hurt more than ever. Every memory now felt poisoned. Every photograph felt fake. Every "I love you" echoed in her mind like a cruel joke. But grief had finally reached its limit. And when grief can no longer grow, it often becomes something else. Determination. The next morning, Sophia called Michael. "I need a favor. Anything. I want to leave the hospital." Then Michael sighed. "I was afraid you'd say that." Sophia managed a small smile. "I need to see things for myself. You're not strong enough." "Maybe not." She looked out the window. "But I'm strong enough to learn the truth." 2 days later, Michael arranged everything. The doctors believed Sophia was visiting a specialist for additional tests. And no one questioned it, especially not Ethan, especially not Olivia. As far as they knew, Sophia remained weak, isolated, and completely unaware exactly where they wanted her. That afternoon, Michael helped her into a car. The city rushed past outside the window. For months, she had only seen life through hospital glass. Now she was back in it. Restaurants, coffee shops, couples holding hands, children laughing, people living ordinary lives. Sophia felt strangely detached from it all. As though she were watching someone else's world. The investigator had provided an address, a luxury apartment downtown, one that didn't belong to Ethan or Olivia. At least officially, the building stood tall against the afternoon sky. Elegant, expensive, private. Sophia stared at it. A strange feeling settled in her stomach. Somehow she already knew this place mattered. From a parked vehicle across the street, they watched. Hours passed. Nothing happened. Then shortly after sunset, a black sedan appeared. Sophia's heart stopped. Ethan stepped out. He looked relaxed, happy. Nothing like the worried husband he pretended to be at the hospital. He entered the building without hesitation. As if he lived there. 20 minutes later, another car arrived. Olivia emerged, smiling, carrying shopping bags. She disappeared into the same building, the same apartment, the same life. Sophia stared, unable to look away. The evidence shouldn't have hurt anymore. She already knew they were together. But seeing it with her own eyes was different, more real, more brutal, more final. The last traces of denial vanished. 3 hours later, the investigator contacted Michael. They've gone to the rooftop lounge. Sophia's pulse quickened. The rooftop lounge occupied the top floor of the building, a private area reserved for residents. Michael looked at her. "You don't have to do this." Sophia answered immediately. "Yes, I do." The elevator ride felt endless. Each floor seemed to bring her closer to something terrible, and she was right. The moment the doors opened, she heard laughter. Ethan's laughter, Olivia's laughter. The sound hit her harder than she expected, because it sounded genuine, carefree, happy. The kind of happiness neither of them showed around her anymore. Sophia remained hidden behind a nearby wall, close enough to hear, far enough to avoid being seen. Then the conversation began, and with it, the final destruction of her heart. "I can't wait much longer." Olivia laughed softly. "Neither can I." Ethan kissed her hand, a gesture Sophia had once believed belonged only to her. "When all this is over," Ethan said, "we won't have to hide." Sophia closed her eyes. Pain stabbed through her chest, but she forced herself to keep listening. "Do you think she'll suspect anything?" Olivia asked. Ethan laughed, actually laughed. "She never does." The words felt like a slap. Years of trust reduced to a joke. Years of love reduced to stupidity. Sophia's hands clenched into fists. Then Olivia asked a question, one that changed everything. "What about the wedding?" Sophia froze. "The wedding?" Ethan smiled. The investigator's hidden camera captured everything. "We can start planning soon." Olivia grinned. "I already have ideas." Sophia's entire body went cold. Wedding. They were discussing a wedding. Not after a divorce. Not after moving on. Not after years had passed. Now. While she was still alive. While she was still fighting to survive. While she was still their victim, the conversation continued. Each word cutting deeper. Each sentence revealing another layer of cruelty. Then Ethan said something Sophia would never forget. Something that would haunt her forever. "Honestly, I thought this would take longer." Olivia laughed. "Me too." Ethan leaned back. But the poison worked better than expected. Sophia stopped breathing. Everything around her seemed to disappear. The city, the lights, the rooftop, gone. Only those words remained. The poison worked better than expected. Not suspicion. Not theory. Not possibility. Confirmation. Direct. Clear. Undeniable. They had done it. Together. Sophia felt tears fill her eyes, not from sadness, from shock, because hearing the truth and hearing them admit it were completely different things. One left room for doubt, the other destroyed it. Then came the worst part. The moment that finally revealed who Olivia truly was. For years, Sophia believed greed had corrupted her sister, that money had changed her, that Ethan had manipulated her. She wanted to believe there was still something human left inside her. Then Olivia spoke. "I've hated her for years." Sophia froze. The words didn't make sense. Hated her. Olivia continued. Everything was always about Sophia. Each sentence landed like a knife. Everyone admired Sophia. Everyone praised Sophia. Everyone compared me to Sophia. Tears rolled down Sophia's cheeks, not because Olivia was wrong, but because she never knew her sister carried that much resentment. Olivia's voice hardened. "You know what I hated most?" Ethan smiled. "What?" "She was always kind." The answer stunned even him. Sophia stared, unable to comprehend it. Olivia laughed bitterly. "Do you know how frustrating that was?" Her eyes narrowed. "She never gave me a reason to hate her." A chill ran through Sophia's body. Because those words revealed something terrifying. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't justice. This wasn't even greed. It was envy. Years and years of envy, quietly growing, quietly rotting, until it became hatred. Sophia's heart broke all over again. Not because Olivia hated her, because she had no idea. All those years, all those memories, all those sacrifices. And she never noticed. Then Ethan wrapped an arm around Olivia. "We're almost there." Olivia smiled. "Finally. When Bennett Beauty becomes ours, we'll never have to worry again." Sophia stared at them. The company. The money. The future. That was all they saw. Not a sister. Not a wife. Not a human being. Just an obstacle. A problem to remove. The investigator finally touched Sophia's shoulder gently. She looked pale. Shaken. Devastated. "That's enough." Sophia nodded slowly. For once, she agreed. She had heard enough. Seen enough. Learned enough. The truth was complete. And it was uglier than she ever imagined. Later that night, back in her hospital room, Sophia sat alone in silence. No tears. No panic. No heartbreak. Those things had burned away. In their place was something colder, something sharper, something far more dangerous. She opened her laptop, then she called Michael. The moment he answered, she spoke. "I want every piece of evidence copied. Done. I want backup copies stored somewhere safe. Done. I want legal counsel." Michael paused, then smiled slightly. "Anything else?" Sophia stared out at the city lights, and for the first time since this nightmare began, a small smile appeared on her face. Not a happy smile. A determined one. "Yes." Her voice was calm. Steady. Certain. "I want them to believe they're winning," because while Ethan and Olivia were busy planning a wedding, Sophia had started planning their downfall. The next morning, Ethan arrived at the hospital carrying flowers, white roses. Sophia almost laughed when she saw them. White roses had always been her favorite. He remembered that. Of course he did. A hunter always studied its prey. "Good morning," Ethan said warmly. He kissed her forehead and placed the flowers beside her bed. Months ago, the gesture would have melted her heart. Now it made her stomach turn. Yet Sophia smiled. The same trusting smile he expected. The same vulnerable smile he believed still belonged to the woman he had fooled for years. "Thank you," Ethan sat beside her. "You look better today." Sophia nodded. "I've been feeling stronger." A flash of concern crossed his face so quickly that most people would have missed it. Sophia didn't. The poison wasn't working as expected anymore, and that worried him. Good. Let him worry. Over the next 2 weeks, Sophia perfected her performance. She pretended to remain weak, pretended to trust him, pretended to know nothing. Whenever Ethan visited, she spoke about recovery plans, future vacations, restaurants they would visit once she got better. A future together. Each lie made Ethan relax a little more, and every time he relaxed, he became careless. Meanwhile, Sophia worked quietly behind the scenes. Michael hired the best lawyers available, the best forensic accountants, the best investigators. Together, they began rebuilding control of Bennett Beauty, one piece at a time, because while Ethan believed he was stealing the company, Sophia was already taking it back. The first step involved her personal assets, several luxury properties, investment accounts, stocks, savings, everything Ethan believed he would inherit. One afternoon, Sophia met privately with her attorney, an elderly woman named Grace Holloway. Sharp-eyed, brilliant, impossible to intimidate. After reviewing the evidence, Grace removed her glasses. "I've seen greed before." Sophia looked up. "But never like this." Neither had Sophia. For hours, they reviewed documents, trusts, ownership structures, emergency protections. By the time they finished, Ethan's future inheritance had effectively vanished, legally, quietly, permanently. If Sophia died tomorrow, Ethan would receive almost nothing, and he wouldn't discover it until it was far too late. Then came the will, perhaps the most important document of all. Sophia sat in silence as Grace reviewed the changes. "Are you certain?" Sophia nodded. Every word felt heavier than the last, but she was certain. The previous will left nearly everything to Ethan, with secondary distributions to Olivia. The new version was very different. Charities, scholarship funds, longtime employees, research, foundations, friends who had remained loyal, everyone except Ethan and Olivia. When Grace finished reading the final draft, Sophia signed it without hesitation. A strange sense of peace settled over her. For the first time in months, she felt protected. But she wasn't finished, not even close, because taking back her assets wasn't enough. She wanted justice, and justice required evidence. Lots of evidence. The investigators continued monitoring Ethan and Olivia. Their confidence grew with every passing day. Why wouldn't it? As far as they knew, Sophia remained trapped in a hospital bed, dying, helpless, powerless. Exactly where they wanted her. So they stopped being careful. One recording captured Ethan discussing company finances. Another showed him transferring money through hidden accounts. A third documented conversations about forged signatures. Each new piece strengthened Sophia's case. Each new mistake tightened the news. Yet none of it compared to what happened 3 weeks later. That evening, Ethan and Olivia met at the luxury apartment. The investigator recorded everything, including a conversation they never expected anyone to hear. Sophia listened from her hospital room, every word arriving through a secure audio file. At first, the discussion focused on wedding plans, venues, guest lists, honeymoon destinations. The casual nature of it all made Sophia sick. Then Ethan laughed. "Once everything transfers over, we won't have to worry about money again." Olivia smiled. "Do you think the company will be worth more after the merger?" Ethan nodded. "Definitely." There was a pause. Then Olivia asked quietly, "And if she survives?" Silence followed, the kind of silence that made Sophia's heart pound. Finally, Ethan answered, his voice calm, cold, terrifying. "Then We'll find another way. Sophia felt the blood drain from her face. Another way. Not concern, not hesitation, not guilt, just another plan, another method, another attempt. The casual cruelty of it stunned her, even after everything she'd learned. The reality remained shocking, because these weren't people making mistakes. These were people making choices, over and over again. That recording changed everything. Until that moment, Sophia had focused on protecting herself. Now she understood something important. If she didn't stop them completely, they would never stop trying. The next day, she met with Grace again, and together they prepared the final stage of the trap. A trap so devastating that once it closed, Ethan and Olivia would lose everything. Their money, their reputation, their freedom, their future. All of it. The centerpiece of the plan was surprisingly simple. An engagement party, or rather a fake engagement party. The investigators had learned Ethan planned to propose publicly to Olivia shortly after Sophia's death. He wanted celebration, attention, a grand announcement. The irony wasn't lost on Sophia. The same men who had stolen her life wanted applause for it. Fine. He would get his audience. Just not the audience he expected. Over the following days, preparations continued. Evidence was organized, witness statements collected, financial records authenticated, forensic reports verified. Everything had to be perfect, because one mistake could destroy months of work. And Sophia was done making mistakes. One evening, Michael entered her hospital room carrying a thick binder, the final evidence package. He placed it carefully on her bed. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Michael smiled. Not a cheerful smile. A satisfied one. The case is ready. Sophia stared at the binder. Months ago, she would have looked at it with fear. Now she looked at it with determination. Inside those pages lived every lie, every theft, every betrayal, every crime. Enough evidence to destroy everything Ethan and Olivia had built. Enough evidence to ensure they never escaped accountability. Michael sat beside her. How do you feel? Sophia considered the question, then surprised herself with the answer. Free. For the first time since discovering the affair. It was true. The pain remained. The betrayal remained. But the fear was gone. Completely gone. Because she finally understood something. Ethan and Olivia had spent years plotting against her. Years manipulating her. Years believing she was weak, and that confidence would become their greatest mistake. That night, before going to sleep, Sophia opened an old photo album. Pictures of birthdays, family vacations, holidays, moments she once treasured. Slowly, she turned each page, then she reached a final photograph. A picture of herself, Ethan and Olivia together, smiling, happy, looking like a family. Sophia stared at it for a long time, then quietly closed the album and placed it back on the shelf, not because she had forgiven them, not because she had forgotten, but because she was finally ready to let go. The woman in those photographs no longer existed. The woman who trusted blindly. The woman who ignored warning signs. The woman who believed love alone could protect her. She was gone. And in her place stood someone much stronger. Someone who had survived betrayal. Someone who had survived poison. Someone who was about to make two very dangerous people regret everything. 3 weeks later, Ethan Carter stood in front of a mirror adjusting his tie, a smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Tonight was supposed to be the beginning of his new life. No more hiding. No more secrets. No more pretending to be the devoted husband. Everything was finally falling into place. At least, that's what he believed. Across town, a luxury ballroom glittered beneath crystal chandeliers. Hundreds of guests mingled beneath golden lights, business executives, Socialites, investors, media personalities. Many of them recognized Ethan. Many knew Olivia. Most had no idea who Sophia truly was. They only knew the story Ethan had carefully crafted. A tragic husband. A dying wife. A heartbreaking situation. Poor Ethan. Poor Olivia. Forced to watch a loved one slowly fade away. The lies had worked beautifully, until now. Olivia stood before a large mirror in a private suite. Her champagne-colored dress shimmered beneath the lights, diamond earrings sparkled against her dark hair. She looked exactly like a bride, and she loved every second of it. One of her friends smiled. "You look incredible." Olivia laughed. "Tonight has to be perfect." "It will be." The friend lowered her voice. "When will you announce the engagement?" Olivia glanced at the diamond ring hidden inside its velvet box. "Soon. Very soon." Her eyes sparkled. After years of waiting, she would finally have everything she wanted. The man. The company. The money. The life. Everything. At 7 o'clock. The ballroom was full. Guests laughed and sipped champagne. A string quartet played softly in the background. The atmosphere felt elegant, celebratory, hopeful. Exactly what Ethan wanted. He stood near the stage greeting guests, accepting congratulations, shaking hands, playing the role of successful businessman. No one knew the truth. No one suspected anything. And that made him confident, dangerously confident. Meanwhile, several miles away, another car pulled up to the venue, a black luxury sedan. The driver stepped out, opened the rear door, and waited. A pair of heels touched the pavement, then another. A woman emerged slowly, gracefully, confidently, very much alive. Sophia Bennett adjusted her coat and looked up at the building. Tonight wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about truth, about consequences, about making sure people understood that betrayal always carried a price. She inhaled deeply, then stepped forward. Inside the ballroom, Ethan tapped his glass. The room gradually fell silent. Guests turned toward him, smiling, waiting. Ethan smiled back. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming tonight." Applause followed. Olivia stood nearby, already glowing with excitement. Everything was unfolding exactly as planned. Ethan continued. "These past months have been some of the most difficult of my life." Several guests nodded sympathetically. Some even looked emotional. The performance was excellent. Sophia almost applauded from the entrance. Almost. Watching someone you love suffer is never easy. A few guests lowered their eyes. Others murmured agreement. The lies flowed effortlessly. As if he'd rehearsed them. Maybe he had. Ethan paused dramatically, then smiled. "But life also teaches us that after darkness comes light." Olivia's face brightened. She knew what came next. The proposal. The announcement. The future. Everything she'd dreamed about. Then the ballroom doors opened. Slowly, quietly, but loudly enough. Heads turned. Conversations stopped. The string quartet faltered. One violinist missed a note entirely because standing in the doorway was someone nobody expected to see, someone who wasn't supposed to be there, someone who wasn't supposed to be standing. Sophia Bennett. The room froze. Completely. Utterly. Frozen. Several guests gasped, others stared openly. Some looked genuinely frightened. Ethan's face drained of color. Olivia's champagne glass slipped from her hand. It shattered across the marble floor. Neither of them moved. Neither of them spoke. Because neither could believe what they were seeing. Sophia smiled politely. "Hello, everyone." The silence became deafening. Ethan recovered first, or tried to, as Sophia. His voice cracked. The reaction alone was worth the trip. Sophia walked forward calmly. Every eye in the room followed her. She looked healthy, strong, confident, not like a woman on the verge of death, nothing like the image Ethan had been selling for months. Sophia stopped a few feet away. Surprised to see me? No one laughed and no one moved. The tension was too thick, too dangerous. Olivia finally found her voice. Sophia. Tears instantly appeared in her eyes. An impressive performance. Unfortunately, Sophia now knew exactly what kind of actress her sister was. We were worried about you. Sophia nearly smiled. Nearly. Instead, she looked directly at her. Were you? The question landed harder than a slap. Olivia's expression flickered. Just for a second. Long enough. Ethan stepped forward, trying to regain control. What are you doing here? Sophia raised an eyebrow. That's an interesting question. The room remained silent. Every guest could feel something was wrong, they just didn't know what. Yet, Sophia turned slowly toward the audience. She recognized many faces. Board members, investors, friends, employees, people who deserved the truth. Before tonight continues, she said calmly, I'd like to share something. Ethan's pulse visibly quickened. Olivia looked terrified. And for the first time all evening, Sophia felt completely in control. Michael appeared from a side entrance, followed by Grace, then two investigators. Several guests exchanged confused glances. Others began whispering. Ethan looked ready to be sick because he finally understood. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a surprise visit. This was a trap, and he had walked straight into it. A large screen behind the stage flickered to life. The room grew even quieter. Sophia looked at Ethan, then Olivia, then back at the crowd. I spent months believing I was dying. No one interrupted. I trusted the people closest to me. A few guests exchanged uncomfortable looks. I trusted my husband. Her gaze settled on Ethan. I trusted my sister. Now it settled on Olivia. The room felt frozen solid. Sophia took a breath, then spoke the sentence that changed everything. Unfortunately, those were the two people trying to kill me. Gasps erupted across the ballroom. Several guests stood immediately. Others looked stunned. A woman near the front dropped her phone. Someone whispered. What? Someone else whispered. No way. Chaos threatened to erupt, but Sophia wasn't finished. Not even close. Ethan immediately stepped forward. That's insane. His voice shook. She's confused. Sophia smiled. A calm, dangerous smile. The kind of smile people wear when they already know they've won. Am I? She nodded toward Michael. The screen behind them changed. And suddenly the first piece of evidence appeared. Bank transfers. Forgery records. Hidden accounts. Names. Dates. Amounts. Every secret Ethan thought he'd buried, displayed for everyone to see. The room exploded with whispers, and Ethan's face turned white. For the first time that evening, he looked afraid. Very afraid. And Sophia was just getting started. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Whispers spread through the crowd like wildfire. People stared at the giant screen. At the financial records, at the forged signatures, at Ethan, at Olivia, and suddenly the image they had spent years carefully building began to crack, then shatter, then collapse completely. Ethan looked around desperately. For the first time in years, he wasn't the smartest person in the room. He wasn't in control. Sophia was. These documents are fake, Ethan shouted. His voice echoed through the ballroom. Several guests jumped, others exchanged uncertain glances. Sophia remained calm. She had expected this. Of course he would deny everything. Liars always did. The difference was that tonight she came prepared. Michael stepped forward. The documents were verified by independent forensic accountants. Another investigator nodded, as well as 3 separate auditing firms. The crowd grew quieter. Ethan's confidence visibly faltered. Sophia turned toward the giant screen. Let's continue. The next image appeared. A photograph. Then another. Then another. Hotel reservations, vacation photos, private dinners, secret meetings. 2 years' worth of evidence, the affair, displayed for everyone to see. A collective gasp swept through the room. Some guests covered their mouths, others simply stared. Olivia looked as though she might collapse. One elderly woman stood abruptly. She had known Sophia's parents years ago. Tears filled her eyes. "You did this to your own sister?" Olivia couldn't answer, because there was no answer. Not one that would make sense. Not one that would excuse what she'd done. Then came the recordings. The room fell completely silent. Every person listening heard Ethan's voice clearly. The poison worked better than expected. The audio echoed across the ballroom. No one moved. No one breathed. The silence afterward felt almost violent. Then Olivia's voice followed. "Once she's gone, we won't have to hide anymore." Another gasp, another wave of disbelief, another piece of their lies destroyed. Ethan suddenly lunged forward. "Turn that off!" Security stepped between him and the stage. The movement alone told everyone what they needed to know. Innocent people didn't panic like that. Innocent people didn't try to stop evidence from being shown. Sophia watched him quietly. Months ago she would have been terrified. Months ago she would have cried, begged, broken. But not anymore. Because the man standing before her wasn't her husband. He never had been. He was simply a thief who had worn the mask of love, and masks eventually fall. Olivia finally burst into tears, real tears this time. Not the carefully crafted tears she showed in hospitals, not the performance. Real fear, real panic. "Sophia, please." Her voice shook. "We can talk about this." The words made several guests laugh bitterly. Talk? After poisoning her? After stealing from her? After planning a wedding while she was dying? There was nothing left to discuss. Sophia looked at her sister. Really looked at her. And for the first time, she felt something surprising. Not hatred. Not anger. Pity. Because Olivia had sacrificed everything good inside herself for jealousy, and now she had nothing left. Then Sophia spoke, her voice calm, steady, certain. "Do you remember when our parents died?" The question caught Olivia off guard. Tears streamed down her face. "What?" "When they died, I was 21. The room remained silent, listening. I gave up my graduate program." Olivia lowered her eyes. "I worked 3 jobs. A few guests exchanged glances. I sold my car." More silence. "I postponed my dreams because you were my family." Olivia started crying harder, but Sophia continued. Not cruelly. Simply honestly. "I never regretted it." The words hit harder than any accusation. Because they were true. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every opportunity she gave away, she had done it willingly. Out of love. Then Sophia took a slow breath. "And if you had asked me for help," Olivia looked up, "I would have given it." The entire room felt heavy. Painfully heavy. Because everyone understood what she meant. None of this had been necessary. The betrayal. The affair. The poisoning. The theft. All of it had been a choice. Olivia finally collapsed into a chair, sobbing. For the first time, she seemed to understand the weight of what she had done, not because she had been caught, because she had destroyed the one person who truly loved her. Then came the final revelation, the one Sophia had saved for last, the one that would end everything. Grace stepped forward holding a folder. She opened it carefully, then handed copies to several board members. Ethan frowned. "What is that?" Grace smiled, a surprise. The board members read silently. Then one by one, their expressions changed. Confusion. Shock. Disbelief. Then realization. Sophia turned toward Ethan. "You spent years trying to inherit my company." Ethan's stomach visibly tightened. "You forged documents." No response. You stole money. Silence. You poisoned me. Still silence. Then Sophia smiled, the first genuine smile of the evening. And you failed. Ethan frowned. What are you talking about? Grace answered for her. 3 months ago. Sophia changed everything. The room grew quiet again. Every asset, every account, every investment, every ownership structure, all legally protected, all transferred, all secured. Long before tonight, long before Ethan realized anything was wrong, Ethan's face drained of color. No, Sophia nodded. Yes, no, his voice cracked. No, that's impossible. It isn't. The reality finally hit him. The company wasn't his. The properties weren't his. The investments weren't his. The money wasn't his. None of it. Everything he had spent years scheming to steal was gone. The realization broke him. Not emotionally, financially. His entire future vanished in a single moment. The wealth, the lifestyle, the dream. Gone, and for the first time all evening, Sophia saw genuine fear in his eyes. Not fear of prison, not fear of humiliation, fear of becoming ordinary, fear of losing, fear of failure. The thing he had always feared most. Then security approached, followed by detectives. The investigation had already begun. The evidence was overwhelming. The recordings, the financial crimes, the poisoning, the fraud. There was nowhere left to run. As officers moved toward Ethan and Olivia, the ballroom watched in stunned silence. No one defended them. No one intervened, because everyone had heard the truth, seen the evidence, witnessed the consequences. Olivia looked at Sophia one final time. Tears streamed down her face. Sophia. There were 1,000 things she could have said. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I was wrong. But none of them came. Because some wounds are too deep for words, Sophia simply nodded. A quiet farewell, not to her sister. To the person she thought her sister was. The officers escorted them away. And just like that, it was over. Months later, Bennett Beauty flourished. The company recovered. Employees returned. Investors regained confidence. And for the first time in years, Sophia felt free. Truly free. One evening, she stood on the balcony of her apartment overlooking the city. The sunset painted the sky gold and purple. Beautiful. Peaceful. A new beginning. Michael joined her. Any regrets? Sophia thought about it. About the pain. The betrayal. The heartbreak. The years she could never get back. Then she smiled softly. No, because revenge had never been the goal. The goal had been truth. And truth had won. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared beyond the horizon, Sophia closed her eyes and breathed deeply. The woman who had once trusted blindly was gone. The woman who had once sacrificed everything for people who didn't deserve it was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, wiser, unbreakable, someone who survived betrayal, someone who survived poison, someone who survived losing everything and found herself in the process.